Welcome to Get a Word In, a podcast about content marketing. I'm your host, Adam Walker. I'm passionate about sharing stories and knowledge through content, especially in the form of podcasting. In fact, I co-founded Edgewise.media, a podcast-first marketing content agency. On this show, I interview content marketers at some of the top companies in the world and discover what's working for them, what isn't, and most importantly, what's next. So stay tuned and get ready for some great content about content marketing. My guest on the show today is Kate Giacchetto from Modus Mark. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, listen, let's start with you. Who are you? What do you do? What do your days look like? And why do you care about content?
Yes, so I am the founder of Modus Mark, and we are an Atlanta-based brand development consultancy for B2B companies in complex industries like cybersecurity, fintech, SaaS. I always joke that we're kind of a combination of like market researchers, pitch coaches, copywriters, and therapists. We really truly do all of those things in any engagement. But in one sentence, we are really just a company that helps other companies develop, align behind, and activate a brand story. That's authentic to their business, motivating their target audience.
All right. I love that. Okay. So you're all about the story, the brand story. Okay. That's good. So maybe that'll give us a hint in this conversation about where we're going to go, but we'll see. So I know you're big on content, very passionate about content. So I'm excited to talk about this. So let's start with just what's working.
I was thinking about this as I was prepping for this call, and I was like, I feel like I'm going to take all of like the more strategic level answers to these versus like, oh, I think this channel is going to work. So bear with me.
I'll take it.
So I feel like what's working really well from my perspective in content right now is specificity. What I mean by that is kind of, either at a company or firmographic level, maybe it's specific job titles, specific problems or use cases, or maybe it's a specific market trend or like timely thing that's happening in the market right now. And the reason why I say that is because we live in this age of content saturation. Like content that's written for everyone is effectively written for nobody. And I mean, also at a tactical level, it's like more generalized content is really hard to work well for search engines. There's just so much competition.
I hadn't really thought about content that way, like in terms of because I always think, I'm typically creating content and it's usually for a relatively specific market, but I've never really thought can I make it more specific? Can I make my market smaller? Can I make this easier to find for that really, really specific Google search that I know that those 10 people are going to do? That's a really interesting way to look at it. I really like that. And I like what you said about we live in this age of content saturation, and even more so with ChatGPT and all that craziness. And so all the more reason to specialize in the content that we create and really target it for that market, very, very specifically. So do you have any advice on how to go about that?
Well, I think that the main thing is just getting a subject matter expert, if the company leadership or the subject matter experts need to be involved in the content development process. A lot of times companies will just pass it off to their agency and they'll be like, make sure we rank well for this keyword. And it's like, it doesn't really.
But we're not biomedical specialists.
And then why aren't we generating leads? And it's like, well, because we can, we're not in this business every day, so it really does take that kind of the specificity that is only really a subject matter expert or a company leader can offer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And because I feel like the age of let me go research some stuff and regurgitate it in better words. I don't really think I think we're kind of past that. That's very 2010, 2015. And we're kind of past that point. Now I think we do often restate things that are known out there, but we restate them from a unique perspective that is our own, and that
point
gives
of
it
view.
power. Yeah, right. So our point of view has to be unique and different and interesting. And if it's not, then we're going to have problems with our content, right? It's going to be just average at best.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to your point about ChatGPT, it's all of that generalized content is. It's going to put agencies out. A lot of agencies are like, oh no, we're done. Yeah. And it's no, I still think agencies have a super important role to play in kind of project managing the content development process, helping companies identify relevant SEO opportunities, and doing the research on what competitors are doing, where are their topic gaps? And it's really just like effective questioning to those subject matter experts. Like, what is your opinion on this? Like, how would you do this? And then that's the next generation, I guess, role of the agency in the content development process.
I mean, the role just shifts, right? It's like the agencies that were like super experts in mail merge, like they don't need to do mail merge, but they can do, there's lots of other things they can do, which is great. So I don't know if they were ever super experts in mail merge, but that's just what came to mind. So I don't know.
It's very specific.
Whatever, we'll go with it. So, all right. So that's what's working. Specificity. I love that answer. What's not working? Like or even more so, like what used to work that doesn't work? Like any thoughts about that?
Yeah. I'm in B2B. And so gated content has always been like the best tool for generating leads. And no one wants to give their email anymore. And then also because a lot of times that gated content takes a lot of effort to create, whether it's an ebook or like a research, like white paper or something. And so if the agency is writing that, it's not going to be as valuable. We do a lot of work in cybersecurity, and it's like cybersecurity. Yes, I know enough to be dangerous in cybersecurity. I know how to market cybersecurity companies. But if you're asking me how to perform a threat hunt, like I just go to ChatGPT now. How do you do it?
Like you're saying, like gated content used to be kind of the means for generating leads, generating email lists. It's not really working anymore. Like, is there something that is working in your mind for generating email lists and sort of capturing those potential leads? Because that is still kind of an important part of that sales funnel for a lot of organizations.
I mean, I think I'm always going to be on the side of the customer in this. I think it's just providing a lot of value because, people are looking for your solution if your solution is solving their problem. So it's arming them with the right information and doing so in a very accessible way, digestible way. They're going to raise their hand. But I mean, there's other ways to generate leads. I mean, I love the idea of webinars. I think those are great if they're not saturated, like every week you're doing one. But I mean, there's plenty of, B2B going to events and, getting leads there and then following up with them with a personalized email, whatever that means for.
Right. Just so our listeners know, she did air quotes when she said personalized email, which was kind of amazing for a podcast recording. So that's perfect. Thank you. I love it. So, all right. Well, so I'm also curious, like, all right, so gated content to generate leads is not really working. I will confess, within the last month, I've given my email away to get some gated content that was genuinely valuable. Now, the barrage of emails I got after that were frustrating and I opted out very quickly. But nonetheless, I did get the content. So I'm curious, have you opted into anything recently at all?
So, I mean, it has to be super high value, right? I'm actually really curious. What was it that you downloaded?
So I read the book, the one-page marketing plan, and I just really liked the way he simplified, because I feel like so many marketing plans are so overblown and so overly complex that they never actually get activated. And so I was just kind of looking to kind of like get a kickstart and reframing some of my thinking. So I read the book, really liked it. And he's got like the one-page marketing plan that you just like fill out. And it's like this nice little, like grid box, and it's just well designed. And of course I didn't need it, but it was worth it. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll check it out. And it was genuinely helpful, I think. So
you're actually raising a really, really good point, because I think we were talking about like the oversaturation of information. I feel like a great piece of gated content that I would definitely download something like that too, is something that helps us structure our thinking, frameworks, like worksheets, something that helps us make use of all the information that's available to us. I think that definitely, anything that's sort of interactive, I think is really, really helpful for people. And I think that could still work. So that's a really good, asterisk to put on the gated content.
That's really good advice, because I've been working on kind of like trying to think through if I wanted to try a little bit of gated content on my own website or my company's website about podcasting. And like, I think a worksheet, like I like that idea of like I need to do a podcast. I don't even know where to start. Like a worksheet to work through that as opposed to like a white paper would be way better. So love that idea. Okay.
My whole business is based on helping people organize their thoughts into something that's digestible and easy. So, man, I highly recommend it.
I'm all for that, organizing thoughts and making things simple. Okay. So next question is about channels. So Are you seeing any channels that are performing well, not performing well? Anything you're passionate about, excited about? Like, give me the feedback on channels.
So I feel like my answer is going to be like the most generic answer, and that is LinkedIn. But
That's fine. That's fine. Anything specific about LinkedIn though? Like anything I should be
yes,
thinking? Like I'm not on groups. Should I be on groups? I don't know.
no
I
one
never
uses
could get into groups. Is it a thing? Not really. Okay.
no,
How about
no. Yeah.
articles? Like are articles worth anything on LinkedIn at this point? Like videos? I mean, come on. Like give me some feedback here. What do you think?
I feel like LinkedIn's algorithm doesn't even like. I very rarely. I feel like it's like it's your own thing. You want people to stay on your site. Wouldn't you want people? I feel like the algorithm doesn't reward articles. Every time I publish one, I'm always like, really? I get more for like just a regular LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
So what I will say is I do have two things that I've kind of noticed that might be helpful to your listening audience. And so again, B2B, I've noticed that there's a slight nuance between product and service companies. So for service companies trying to get more out of LinkedIn, I've noticed that thought leadership is just, particularly with the company leaders who are like a lot of times the face of the company, are super, super important. And I think that's probably because you're selling a service, there is a distinct human element within that, and people are more inclined to connect with that human before the company. And then for product companies, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still helpful to do the thought leadership from the personal LinkedIn profile with product companies. However, I think because there is a thing to sell, you can get more value from a company page with product companies. I still encourage them to invest in their own personal thought leadership, but we have clients where we've gotten really, really good results from the or from the company page for a product-led company because people are less concerned with that human element.
Yeah, I like that. I never really thought about like trying to build up the page and the profile and sort of the scale of the leader of the service company, and then use that to sort of segue into introduction to the service company. But but it makes sense, and I think that's really smart. But I've never thought of it that way. Like even for my own company, like we're a service company, never really thought. I've always kind of think, oh, we need to post all the content on the company page, and then maybe I'll re-promote or whatever else. But maybe it should be the other way around, or maybe I should just test it a little bit and see what happens. So I like that a lot.
It's like B2C, I think I saw this at like some event that I went to, but it was like, B2C, B2B, it's ultimately B2P, it's business to people, and it's like any more human elements you can add to it is always going to do you favors.
Yeah. And I will say too, like, I feel like LinkedIn has been on the rise largely also because I think there's a lot of us where Facebook has been declining, like, right. So like,
oh, yeah.
I'm like, it used to be that I'd be on Facebook, during the week, and I would like forget to log into LinkedIn. It's like, oh, I should probably check LinkedIn like once a month. And now it's the exact opposite. It's like, oh, maybe I'm like extra bored in this moment, like super bored. I guess I'll check Facebook. And then I quickly back out of it because it's just all garbage. But like I'm on LinkedIn like all the time, like I'm like every day. So it's like a total flip flop, I think. And so I think maybe that's played a role. What do you think?
Yeah, I sound like a total dork, but LinkedIn's my favorite social media platform.
I mean, with Twitter crashing and burning and Facebook just declining in all kinds of ways, like, yeah, LinkedIn's pretty great at this point. Like I can't believe I just said those words. Oh my gosh. I just said, wow. Okay. I think myself from 3 or 4 years ago would really be surprised by that, but whatever. Okay. All right. So last question about content. If you had to focus on just one thing for like the next 12 months, like one thing to grow your business or a business or whatever, what would you focus on? What would you double down on?
Consistent thought leadership, and not like the generic, there's like these like post formulas now that you see over and over again whenever you see somebody, there's like memes about it. And I, without getting too gimmicky within that, like, I think it is, I mean, gosh, every time I do a thought leadership post on LinkedIn, there is some sort of return on that investment of my time and effort.
So what does that look like? What is a thought leadership post on LinkedIn for you? Like, are you linking to an outside article or something outside? Or are you like doing one of those like long LinkedIn posts that's like it's all inside of LinkedIn?
I think it can be either or.
Okay.
Certainly I think what it comes down to is a point of view. And that was something we touched on earlier. It's really honing in on like, if it's an article, this is what I found interesting on this article, and here's how it connects to my personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's, I haven't done much of this yet. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. But here's an experience that we had as a company, and here are 3 key learnings from it. Or, I've noticed this trend within my clients, and I wanted to talk to my network about it. Here's some things, observations that I've made that I think are interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. So really, then, from what I think I'm hearing you say is, it's really more about the authenticity behind it and the thinking behind it than it is necessarily about the formula of like what the post is or how many words it is or any of that other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, as I said at the beginning of this call, it's like strategy ahead of tactics, like the tactics, the format, which by the way, I mean, this is not even a plug for your company, but it kind of is in its own way. But I think what you guys are doing is really, really smart, because there's so many good, we kind of married that with what I'm talking about here, where it's like getting the subject matter expert to just talk for 15 minutes and then creating all these different content formats for it. That is huge.
Yeah.
That is so valuable.
It's a win for everybody. It's the best. And there's so many different subject matter experts with so many different perspectives on how to do it. And so like what works for you or what you're seeing in the market might be a little bit different because of the niche that you're in. And so that's the idea. Is like, let's talk to everybody. Let's just see what's going on in the market.
Right. So, and you have to create it for people's preferences, right? Like I don't like watching videos. A lot of people do. I'd rather read the blog post.
Yeah. Fair. That's fair. I'd rather listen to the podcast typically than watch the video or read the blog post. But I'm like listening to the podcast while I'm like washing dishes or something. So
right.
It's great. All right, Kate. Well, let me recap this conversation. At the end of the recap, tell me if I got anything wrong, if you want to update anything. And then if you have any final thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So for what's working in content marketing, you said specificity. So using that in job titles, use cases, case studies, market trends. You said we live in an age of content saturation. And because of that, the more specific we can be with our content to a very specific audience, the more success that we will have. You suggested getting a subject matter expert involved in the content development process because as marketers, we're not subject matter experts in all things, and we can only regurgitate so much before it sounds legitimately regurgitated and mildly better than ChatGPT. For what's not working, you said gated content for generating leads. No one really wants to give their email address. It's better to provide a ton of value. But if you were going to try some gated content, maybe consider a worksheet or something to help organize people's thinking so that they can do better work. They don't necessarily need to read or consume more content from your gated content. What they really need is a way to formulate what their next steps are going to be. For what channels you are focusing on, you said LinkedIn. You mentioned there's a nuance between product and service companies. And for service companies, thought leadership is super important, especially from the company leaders. But for product companies, they can lead from their company page. And for what you would focus on, you said consistent thought leadership, not to use post formulas or any of that other garbage, but be authentic, be yourself, have a unique perspective, a unique point of view, and share that authentically, and then let the cards fall where they may. Strategic ahead of tactics. Did I miss anything in that summary?
No, I don't think so. The only thing I would amend I would say that, post formulas have their place, right? If you use them.
Yep.
To guide your thinking, just like we were talking about with the worksheets. But I would just caution, use them sparingly. Don't, it has to sound like you at the end of the day.
I think they can influence and inform.
Right. But
maybe don't go for the exact perfect structure every single time because that becomes very robotic. I mean, very ChatGPT-ish. That's all I'm trying to say. So,
right. That's the theme of this one as well.
Yeah. That's very ChatGPT-ish. That's the word. We're going to make it a verb. It's going to be great. So, or is that an adjective? Anyway, whatever. Kate, this has been great. I would love to have you back on the show again sometime. Thank you for your perspective on this. And specifically, thank you about getting into the specificity that we need as we create marketing content. That was really helpful for me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Get a Word In, brought to you by Edgewise.media, a podcast-first marketing content agency. To learn more about Edgewise, visit www.edgewise.media. I'm your host, Adam Walker. To connect with me, check out my blog at adamjwalker.com. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe now so you don't miss our next great conversation about content marketing.